Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie. I'm a storytelling and pitch coach. What I do is that I help early stage startups craft compelling pitch decks so that they can pitch to investors to secure funding. And to start off, I want to quickly ask you all a question. When a startup company shares their idea with an investor, what part of their pitch do you think is the most important? Do you think it's A, the product? So what are you selling and what makes you special? Or B, the traction? So how many products have you sold already? And how many people are still waiting to buy your product? Or C, what is the problem that you're solving? So who thinks it's A? Can I see raise of hands? Okay, we have one in the back. Don't be shy, everyone, okay? How about B? Who thinks it's B? Okay, we have a few hands over here. Great, great, great. Nice. Okay, who thinks it's C? Whoa, a lot more hands. Perfect. Amazing. So everyone that picked that C, you're actually correct. Perfect. Yay. Woo! Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that. But by anchoring your pitch on a really big, scary, expensive, and painful problem, it actually gives meaning to your solution and your product, and it gives meaning to everything else that follows. The more founders I work with, the more I realize the real work is not in developing pitch decks, but the real work is learning how to reframe your problem. And life works the same way. The way that we reframe the challenges in our life gives meaning to our life, it helps determine our calling, and it helps paint the story that you will live. Born with severe complications at birth, I had 3 invasive surgeries before the age of 10. One of the earliest memories of my entire life was when I was 3 years old, waking up in a cold, dark room post an invasive surgery with what felt like 10 IV drips attaching me to a room filled with beeping machines. That was how I started my life. And amidst that trauma, I also developed a severe speaking disorder called selective mutism. I can clearly speak, but fear made silence feel safer, so I chose not to. And it's particularly confusing for me because I grew up in a family that spoke 3 to 4 languages interchangeably, so speaking even the simplest words felt overwhelming. And for the longest time, I felt broken, defective, weak. It wasn't until I started growing up did I start realizing that I could reframe my challenge. What I once saw as a flaw, I started to look at as my training. Living in silence helped me sharpen my senses. It helped me see others beyond words. And most importantly, when speaking causes you great anxiety, but you can't afford to not speak, it forced me to adapt. And that's what I did. I slowly learned how to communicate only what was necessary. I learned how to distill complexity into simplicity and clarity. And I learned how to cut through the noise to deliver only the simplest and truest message that I wanted to convey. I didn't overcome silence. I reframed it. And by reframing that silence, it became the foundation of me finding my voice. Now, fast forward to just a few months right before I was about to start college. The financial crisis had just hit, and my parents sat me down at the dinner table to tell me that the college fund they had saved up for me had vanished overnight. The financial crisis forced my dad to take on a 3rd job, and my mom, who had been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, to return to the workplace. It also left me with an impossible decision. I either needed to take out a massive amount of student loans and graduate with crushing debt, or I had to drop out of college, start working, and somehow save my way to a college education. Both options felt impossible, terrible, and so unfair. Why did it have to be me? But I thought to myself, there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way that I can get out of this situation. And I thought for a long time, and I eventually found it. I was going to apply for scholarships. And at first, I treated scholarships like a numbers game. I applied to everything I could. I applied to scholarships I qualified for, applied to scholarships I didn't qualify for, I applied to government scholarships, university scholarships, and before you knew it, I had applied to over 100. And then I waited. Week after week went by, and some scholarships were kind enough to contact me to let me know I was rejected. But the vast majority of them kept me waiting and waiting and waiting until it became all too clear that whatever shred of hope I had left had also disappeared. I felt worthless and desperate. I had applied to over 100 scholarships and not a single one wanted to support me. I felt like I didn't deserve to go to college. But even in the depths of my despair, I realized I wasn't quite ready to give up because I really wanted to go to college. So I decided I was going to reframe my challenge and give it one more go. I told myself that getting rejected wasn't proof that I wasn't enough. It was feedback on how I can be better. And so this time, I strategized. I analyzed every scholarship I wanted to apply for, and I mapped out a persona of the perfect candidate for that scholarship. I also learned how to reframe my story to appeal to the scholarship committees as much as possible. And slowly, something shifted. I finally landed my very first scholarship. Woo! For $2,500, which isn't a lot of money compared to what I really needed. But it meant so much to me that I finally got one. And then that one scholarship turned into two, and then two turned into several more. And now I want to ask you guys again, really quickly, how many scholarships do you think I ended up winning in the end? 10, 15, or more than 30? How many think I won 10? Okay. How many think I won 15? How many think I won more than 30? Woo! I love how you have so much faith in me, but that's exactly what happened. By the time I graduated college, I had won over 30 scholarships, totaling 1.3 million RMB. Wow. Which was about $200,000 at the time, or more, or closer to $300,000 in today's money. I had won so many scholarships that I needed to start paying income tax. Yeah. But what didn't change was my circumstances or the stakes. None of that changed. What changed was me reframing my challenges. And by reframing my challenge, I gave myself the chance to understand my audience and to nurture my skills as a budding storyteller. That then brings me to my final story. Right after I graduated college, I became an entrepreneur, and I launched my first venture. I built an innovative exchange program between US and Chinese students with the goal of teaching them how to work effectively and professionally with each other to bridge US and China relations. And what I couldn't believe at 20 years old was just how successful this program became. I launched my first pilot program, within 3 months of conception. I recruited 18 paying students, and I built partnerships with over 5 universities in the US and China, including my home university, the University of Colorado Boulder. But I had one problem. I was bootstrapping this entire operation, and I was barely breaking even. This was a high-impact, high-effort, high-quality fellowship program that I could not scale without funding. But just like the scholarships before, my journey to securing funding was equally elusive. I networked in China, I networked in the US, I joined as many entrepreneurial organizations as possible, I hired a startup coach, I even joined startup competitions, but nothing. I wasn't techy enough, I wasn't cutting edge, I didn't have a big enough capacity to scale, and I couldn't turn a profit within a short amount of time. That experience crushed me. It made me question my entire approach as an entrepreneur, and it made me question all of my abilities. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe everything I've done so far was all wrong. Or maybe the only reason we weren't succeeding was because of me. I fell into a deep depression and was stuck in a dark place for a very long time until I finally gathered up the courage to revisit what had happened. Instead of telling myself I was just a failed entrepreneur, I reframed my challenge and realized I was simply positioning myself in the wrong ecosystem. I was fundamentally misaligned with where I was looking for funding. It wasn't well known at that time, but I am now what is known as a social entrepreneur. So I build ventures to help solve a social or environmental problem. I didn't belong in the world of angels and pre-seed and VC funding at the time. I do now, but not then. So I needed to align myself with the right place and where my values lied. So this time, I strategized and I changed my tactics, and they finally worked. I won my very first round of funding from the China Young Leaders Foundation, which is sponsored by the largest jewelry distributor in Hong Kong, and 6 figures in funding from the US Embassy in Beijing. I even helped a local organization win WeWork's very first Creators Award and $72,000 in investment, bringing the total amount of scholarships and funding that I received to 2.3 million RMB to date. Thank you, everyone. I didn't fail. I just needed to reframe my challenges and give myself the chance to tell my story to the right audience. Suffering from selective mutism taught me how to communicate clearly. Struggling to secure scholarships taught me how to appeal to my audience. And failing to secure funding taught me how to find alignment with where I was going. I didn't choose storytelling. Storytelling was just a skill I developed by reframing my challenges. And just like in pitching, where the most important slide is the problem slide, because the way you reframe the problem determines whether investors will lean in, life is the same. If you reframe your challenges as proof that you're not enough, then you shrink. But if you reframe your challenges as training, then you grow. You don't find your calling. You reframe your challenges, and your calling will slowly reveal itself to you. Excellence is not about having less problems in life. It's about learning how to reframe them. And by reframing them, you give yourself to write the story of your life. Thank you, everyone.